Imagine a car that was not just a means of transportation, but a passport to exclusivity, sporty luxury, and the dream of experiencing a piece of the racetrack in the comfort of the road. This car exists, and it's called the Ferrari 212 Inter Cabriolet. Imagine yourself in the early 1950s. The world was emerging from the shadow of war, and the automotive industry was flourishing again. It was a time of bold dreams, technological progress, and an almost universal desire for luxury and speed. In this context, a car emerged that was not just a vehicle, but a manifesto of Italian ambition, the Ferrari 212 Inter Cabriolet. Ferrari, still a young brand, was primarily known for the racetrack. Enzo Ferrari believed the soul of the company lay in motorsport, but he also understood that relying solely on racing wouldn't ensure the brand's future. It was necessary to turn sporting prestige into a product. Thus, the 212 Inter was born, a car that took Ferrari's competitive DNA to the streets, but with the elegance and refinement that the Grand Tourer market demanded. The name Inter wasn't chosen by chance. It referred to Internazionale, a clear demonstration of Ferrari's ambition to conquer customers outside Italy. The 212 Inter had an international vocation, designed for aristocrats, industrialists, and millionaires from Europe and the United States who sought exclusivity. This was not a car for the masses, but for a few privileged people willing to pay top dollar for a status symbol and a piece of the racetrack spirit in a civilized version.
What the designers wanted was something bold, to create a true Grand Tour. This meant balancing two worlds that seemed opposed. On one side, the mechanical ferocity inherited from motorsport, with powerful engines and a sporty character. On the other, comfort, sophistication, and usability for long journeys. The 212 Inter couldn't just be fast, it also had to be elegant and reliable for those crossing borders on open roads. But the task wasn't simple. Transforming the Colombo V12 engine, famous for its victories in racing, into a docile heart for daily use required skill. It was necessary to preserve the power and characteristic roar, but also deliver smoothness and durability. Additionally, the handcrafted production posed its own challenge. Each unit would be bodied by different Italian master craftsmen. Vignale, Touring, Ghia, and, for the first time in Ferrari history, Pininfarina, which would inaugurate a legendary partnership with the brand. This diversity made each 212 Inter a unique piece, but it required a perfect integration between engineering and design. The 212 Inter also stood out for its positioning. It didn't have a direct rival because no other car so clearly combined competitive pedigree with the luxury of a Grand Tour. However, it competed indirectly with the more sophisticated Alfa Romeo, Maserati, and even exclusive models from Aston Martin. The goal wasn't to beat rivals in sales numbers, but to consolidate Ferrari as the absolute reference among luxury car manufacturers.
The Cabriolet, in particular, had a special role within the lineup. While the coupes exuded closed sportiness, the Cabriolet represented freedom and glamour. It was the car to be seen in luxurious avenues, to parade in summer resorts, to offer the owner not only speed, but also the sensory experience of traveling with the wind in their face and a V12 roaring ahead. Behind this glamour, there was also a clear strategy. Enzo Ferrari understood that every satisfied customer meant more than just a sale. It was a living advertisement for the brand in influential social circles. By delivering bespoke cars with exclusive bodywork and superior performance, Ferrari cultivated an aura of rarity that only increased its prestige. The 212 Inter Cabriolet was, therefore, much more than an automobile. It was the materialization of Enzo Ferrari's vision for the future. It represented the link between racing cars and road models, the first concrete step for Ferrari to go from just a name in racing to a global legend. It was a car that combined technical boldness, artisanal beauty, and impeccable branding strategy. And that's why, even today, when we look at the 212 Inter, we don't just see an old machine. We see the birth of a concept. Ferrari as a universal object of desire, built to be rare, luxurious, and unmistakable. A car that marked the beginning of Ferrari as we know it, combining performance, exclusivity, and timeless glamour that only true icons possess.
If Block 1 showed us how the Ferrari 212 Inter Cabriolet was born from a strategic vision, now it's time to raise the hood and dive into what really makes this car a legend: its engineering. At the heart of the 212 Inter was the 2.56-liter Colombo V12 engine. Designed by Gioacchino Colombo, this engine had already proven its strength in Ferrari's racing models. But for the Inter, it underwent important adjustments. The power was calibrated to about 150 horsepower at 6,500 RPM, using a single Weber carburetor in many versions, which favored drivability on long-distance roads. This engine was a true marvel of balance. It delivered smoothness and linear power, but without losing that metallic roar that thrilled any enthusiast. The engine was paired with a 5-speed manual transmission, something quite advanced for 1951. While most cars still used 3- or 4-speed gearboxes, Ferrari offered a gearbox that allowed better utilization of the power range, ensuring vigorous acceleration and more stable cruising speeds. The drivetrain was rear-wheel drive, as tradition in sports cars dictates. The chassis of the 212 Inter was also a masterpiece. Built from steel tubes, it was light and strong, allowing for different bodywork to be adapted without compromising performance. This flexibility was essential, as each unit received a unique design from the master carrozzieri. The front suspension used double triangular arms, while the rear featured a rigid axle with semi-elliptical springs. It was a combination that mixed sportiness and robustness, though far from the sophistication that would come decades later.
The brakes were drum on all 4 wheels, limited by today's standards, but at the time, they were reliable and considered sufficient for a car that could reach a top speed of around 193 kilometers per hour. This number, in 1951, was extraordinary. Imagine an elegant convertible, dressed in leather and chrome, capable of cruising European roads at almost 200 kilometers per hour. It was a clash of sensations, luxury on the outside, raw power hidden on the inside. Let's not forget the dimensions. With a wheelbase of about 2.5 meters, the car offered perfect proportions for a GT, stable at high speeds, yet agile in curves. The weight varied according to the bodywork, since each example was different, but always balanced to preserve performance. And how did the world react to this combination? The launch at the 1951 Brussels Motor Show was an event. Magazines like the British Autocar highlighted the Inter as a car that went beyond expectations, surpassing rival Grand Tours of the time. It wasn't just a Ferrari for collectors, it was a car that could compete in endurance races and, at the same time, parade elegantly through the streets of Paris or Milan. But this exclusivity came at a price, literally. The 212 Inter cost around $11,000 in the 1950s, something reserved for millionaires. Only 82 units were produced between 1951 and 1953, making it rare from the start. The press and public praised its striking style, exclusivity, and racing pedigree, but there were criticisms as well. Comfort was not comparable to that of a luxury sedan, the trunk was minimal, and maintenance required deep pockets and highly specialized mechanics.
Even so, the overall balance was positive. The 212 Inter Cabriolet was not a high-volume seller, but it wasn't a failure either. On the contrary, it fulfilled exactly the role Enzo Ferrari wanted. It solidified the brand's image as a manufacturer of exclusive, fast machines, and above all, desired ones. 7 decades have passed since the Ferrari 212 Inter Cabriolet appeared on the automotive scene, but its legacy remains alive, almost like a piece of DNA that helped shape Ferrari's identity. Today, when we talk about this model, we're not just talking about a classic car. We're talking about a milestone that established the bridge between the brand's racing cars and the lineage of grand tourers that would turn Ferrari into a global reference. Among collectors and historians, the 212 Inter Cabriolet holds a prominent place for three main reasons. First, its rarity. Just over 80 units were produced, and each of them received custom bodywork, making each example unique. Second, its historical importance. It represented Ferrari's consolidation in the international luxury sports segment, a move essential for the brand's survival and prosperity. Third, the symbolism of inaugurating partnerships that would shape Ferrari's design for decades, such as the collaboration with Pininfarina, which began with this model. In today's market, the 212 Inter Cabriolet is treated as a work of art on wheels. Each example that appears at auction causes a stir. The average value hovers around $1 million, but examples with exclusive bodywork, such as those made of aluminum by Ghia or those linked to historical personalities, can easily surpass this figure. In some cases, record prices have approached astronomical amounts simply because the originality and provenance elevate the car to a nearly museum-worthy category. It's important to note that, while the prices are high, it's not just money that attracts buyers. The 212 Inter Cabriolet is a cultural symbol, an object of desire that represents a time when every Ferrari was literally made to order. Acquiring an example today means entering a closed circle of collectors who don't just buy cars, but pieces of automotive history. But how is it viewed by common enthusiasts, those who may never be able to buy one? For these enthusiasts, the 212 Inter is a nearly mythical legend. It's remembered as one of the first Ferraris to be truly international, a car that paved the way for later models like the 250 GT and helped establish the idea that Ferrari was more than just a racing brand. It was a synonym for luxury and performance. Of course, over time, some stories and curiosities have further fueled this fascination. In 1951, two 212 Inter cars with Vignale bodywork participated in the Carrera Panamericana in Mexico, one of the most dangerous and prestigious races of the time. Against all expectations, they took first and second place, proving that even in its road version, the car retained Ferrari's fierce heart. This feat marked the model's reputation and showed the world that luxury and performance didn't have to be opposites. Another remarkable episode involves chassis 0177E, the first Ferrari to be bodied by Pininfarina. This moment initiated a partnership that would shape Ferrari's design throughout much of the 20th century, creating some of the most beautiful and iconic cars in history. Without the 212 Inter, this union might not have happened. There are also unexpected stories, like that of chassis 0253EU, which received a 2.7-liter engine and was studied by Ford as inspiration for developing the Thunderbird. This shows the silent impact of the 212 even outside Italy, influencing rival manufacturers. And to top it all off, even modern celebrities connect with the car. Jay Leno, the famous comedian and car collector, has presented a 212 Inter on his show, reminding us that these cars are not just museum pieces, but can still be driven, admired, and celebrated as they were in the past. But it's not all simple when it comes to owning an example today. Anyone dreaming of acquiring one must be prepared. It's not just about having financial resources. It's essential to investigate provenance, ensure that the engine, chassis, and bodywork are original, and have access to specialists capable of keeping the car in ideal conditions. Parts are extremely rare. Maintenance requires in-depth knowledge, and any mistake can drastically reduce the car's historical and financial value. The 212 Inter is a passion investment, not just a money investment. From a category perspective, it's remembered as a true luxury grand tour, a car that anticipated the formula that would become one of Ferrari's pillars: sportsmanship combined with refinement. It's not a pure race car, but it's also far from just an elegant automobile. It's the balance, the meeting point between visceral performance and artisanal sophistication. And that's why the Ferrari 2112 Inter Cabriolet continues to fascinate. It's not just a garage relic, it's a living piece of Ferrari's identity, a testament to how the brand dared to transform racing engineering into luxury on wheels. Each surviving example tells a different story, but they all share the same essence, that of a car born to be rare, exclusive, and eternal. In conclusion, the legacy of the 212 Inter Cabriolet is twofold. On one side, it helped write Ferrari's first chapter in the world of Grand Tours. On the other, it remains to this day an absolute object of desire, a symbol of status, history, and passion. For collectors, it's a trophy. For enthusiasts, it's an unattainable dream. For Ferrari, it's a cornerstone. And for the history of automobiles, it's a reminder that true luxury lies in combining mechanical boldness, artisanal beauty, and pure emotion behind the wheel. This is the kind of car that doesn't age, it becomes eternal. The Ferrari 212 Inter Cabriolet is not just an engineering piece, but a testament to how passion, art, and speed can merge into something that transcends generations. And now, I want to hear from you. What did you think of this classic? What detail caught your attention most in this story? And tell me, which legendary car would you like to see analyzed here on the channel in a future episode? If you enjoyed this dive into the world of classics, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and make sure you don't miss any of the upcoming stories. Leave your like to support this work and share this video with that friend who also breathes the world of classic cars. Here, every week is a journey through time with engines that never fail to move us. So, comment, join in, and let's together build this community of enthusiasts for cars that made history.